All right, good morning, everyone. Hopefully, you guys can hear me fine. All right, good morning, everyone. All right, everything looks fine. Okay, all right. Good morning. All right, let me wait a couple more minutes and I'll really start talking. All right. So what I'm gonna do today is review the trades, all the trades I took this week, and then also not only review them but like jot down all of the data, because that's something that I wish I did last year, was just like not only journal but track very specific data with all the trades. And I mean, like, TradeZella does it, but like not the way that I want it to. I want to track certain things. And I think the best way for me to do that is just really by doing it in a way that I understand. I'm actually amazed you managed to be up this week. It was a rough week. Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a really rough week. I was actually supposed to be red for the week, but I took an extra trade um on Friday, which I was actually breaking a rule because it wasn't an A plus setup. If you're in the Discord, you probably saw that. I mentioned it to everyone that I basically made back all my losses in one trade. It's right here. Here, I'll show you guys really quick. YOLO'd my accounts off stream. I'm not proud of it, but it worked out. We restart next week, sizing down next week, sticking to the plan. Rough start to the year. So Friday was basically a small winning day. I would call it as a break even day. But yeah, this was the trade I took on Friday. It was really a wedge breakout. And no, it's not my usual A plus trade. Um, but that's why we're reviewing it, you know, trying to get better. There's also just a bunch of different things that I think caused me not to have a really good week. So that's the goal of this stream, is just to understand what I could have done better or what mistakes did I do so I could avoid it next week. So what I'm going to be tracking on this spreadsheet is all of my setups. So I have basically four setups. I have longs breakout trades, short breakout trades, and then regular supply and demand trades or reversal trades. Basically the same thing. And then for each one, I want to track the time of entry. Time of entry, and I want to. Okay, that looks right. Time of. Or no, what time frame is. Time frame of zone. That sounds so wrong. I feel like there could be another way for me to call it. But basically, I want to track what type of zone. So, for example, this would be a 45-minute supply zone. That's what this column here is. Time of entry, whether it was a win or loss, how many points slash ticks into profit did it go into, stop loss, so how big was the stop loss. I know this week my stop losses were really tight, and the reason normally they're 100 ticks, right? But since I'm trading Apex, my plan was to just to like trade one contract, get in and out. But and I told my girlfriend that, and she was just like, "Why would you change the way that you trade if you were already successful trading a certain way?" And I was just like, yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. I was trying to adjust to like the accounts and stuff, but now that I actually tried it out, it just didn't work out for me. So I'm gonna stick to 100 tick stop loss. But now since I'm uh journaling last week's trades, it's gonna be 50 ticks for all of the trades basically. What else am I tracking here? How big is stop loss? I'm gonna screenshot every trade on the 1 minute time frame and the 5 minute, and then if I need another screenshot of the trade, that's what this other box here is for. And I mean, I don't recommend this for. I mean, technically, I do. I do recommend everyone to journal in some sort of way. The way that I'm doing it this year is just. It's honestly really. Um, I don't want to say nerdy, but like it is. I just want to track very specific things, very specific data, zone time frame. Yeah, that sounds way better. I'm gonna put that. Okay, and then I think what the heck? Okay. Wait, what? Damn, I like really messed up. Okay, I'm gonna have to redo it. It was trade and then zone time frame. No, it was something else. This looks weird. I must have added it. Okay, that makes sense. Oh my gosh. Delete Z. Okay, there we go. That was like way harder than what I intended it to be. I haven't used spreadsheets in a while. Okay, everything looks normal. Duplicate. I'm gonna delete this one. This other sheet is for supply and demand slash reversal trades. Yeah. It looks pretty rough right now, but it's gonna look better. I gotta trust the process. And I've tried backtesting on TradeZella because they have that on TradeZella. But on TradeZella, you can't really look at every single time frame. So that's why I'm not doing it on TradeZella either. Because it's just, for me, it's not it. And then I'm going to go back to the 5th. We're also gonna put it in replay mode. Okay, boom. This was the 5th. And the trade I took on the 5th was, I'm going to type it right here. Because for some reason, copy image. The reason I'm doing it like this too is because I actually didn't put this stuff on TradeZella. I don't know why, but I just put it on Discord. I should have really put it on both, but that's why we're here today. Okay, boom. So this was on Monday. First trade, I took longs on NASDAQ after 9:30. After a 1 minute candle closed above a 90-minute zone, stop loss was tight at 50 ticks. So it was a loss, then a win, then another loss, which put me up on the day 9K in total. So what I'm going to do now is just chart out Monday as if I was going to trade. In reality though, I'm just going to chart out the zones. I'm not going to chart out my white lines. Boom, 3-hour demand zone. This looks like a 2-hour zone up here. And this was the 90-minute zone that I took the trade off from. Now that I look at this zone, I should have known it wasn't going to be as accurate because it already got ran through. Which I do take trades like this off of zones that already got ran through, because sometimes supply and demand acts like support and resistance. Yeah, for example here, this is why I trusted this 90-minute zone, because their reactions off of it were beautiful from both sides. So is that 90-minute zone, and then a 30-minute. Which is this one right here. And then that was all the zones for NASDAQ. Okay, so boom, my first entry was here, which this is a usual trade. I would say this is not a breakout trade. This is more of a continuation trade, because if you zoom out, the breakout kind of did already happen during pre-market, right? Like this wasn't a breakout trade. This was really a continuation trade. But yeah, since I saw this 1 minute candle close plus this kind of retest here, that's why I took the longs. And then once I took this loss, which I'm going to chart, or I'm going to screenshot and put it on the spreadsheet. Damn, this is so hard, like just doing it manually. But this is how I want it, unfortunately. On the spreadsheet. So this was a 90-minute / continuation. time of entry was, I'm pretty sure it was 9:30, 9:31. Zone time frame 90 minute. This was a loss. Another thing I could do on this spreadsheet is just like do everything. I don't even know how to explain it, but it's where you do the drop down. I just forgot how to work this spreadsheet, so I'm gonna figure that out later. But it's just gonna make it easier for me to write out everything. Points and takes into profit, I mean, really zero. Basically, this was 50 ticks. Stop loss 50 ticks. 1 minute time frame screenshot. There we go. Looks like I can't copy and paste a photo into it. There we go. And then a screenshot on the 5 minute time frame, which is gonna look, yeah, it's gonna look rough on the 5 minute. Can't even see the trade. $6.57. Okay, this is what it looks like on the 5 minute. It looks very just tiny on the 5 minute. There we go. And then for other screenshots, I mean, I'm not going to do anything else. Alright, what was the next trade? Next trade was actually a win, and I think it was a really good trade. It was longs off of this 30-minute time frame, 30-minute zone. Down here. The entry was off of this break here. It says the stop loss was here, but I just know it was tighter. It had to be tighter. No, it could have. It was below this wick. Yeah, I can't do 50 tick stop loss next week. So I'm gonna have to size down to 5 micros. That way I could actually have a stop loss that makes sense next week. Another thing with this trade, honestly, the entry could have been way better. Like, as soon as I saw it tap this area here and reverse outside the zone, the entry could have been better down here. And the risk reward also could have been way better if I had that better entry. But the reason I took it up here was just because I was waiting for the candle to close. And this would actually be... Oof, I wrote this wrong. This would actually be a reversal trade. Yo, oh my god. I don't know how to work a spreadsheet anymore. I'm gonna have to do this manually. Or let's just copy it. Paste. There we go. Okay. And then I'm just gonna erase this. So that first one was a breakout trade, technically. And then this one would be a regular supply and demand trade. Because it didn't break past this 50% line. This was a 30-minute. Time of entry 9:41 a.m. This was a 30-minute zone. This was a win. Ticks into profit. I know I closed it out around 620s, but it ran up to 200 ticks. I'm going to say 200 ticks. I actually want to track how big these moves are. Stop loss 84 ticks. Which again, like, now that I'm journaling this, stop loss wasn't even consistent with the two trades I took. So the risk wasn't consistent, which is also something like I don't normally do. My performance this week honestly was like pretty rough, and I think it was because of a couple of reasons. But again, this is why I'm doing this, is to spot out those mistakes I did. Because if I don't do this, then I could easily repeat the same mistakes next week. You know, that's the whole point of reviewing these trades. Here's a screenshot for the 1 minute time frame. And then for the 5 minute, which just is literally the tiniest move on the 5 minute time frame. And then I'm going to insert the image. Okay, here it is. I couldn't find it for a second. Yeah, these. This is so weird that I can't copy and paste a photo. I feel like I used to do that a lot. Alright, what was the next trade? I just got a notification on YouTube that says YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. So if it lagged, it's because I think the Wi-Fi cut out, not gonna lie. So I couldn't even click anything for a second. Alright, this next trade, I'm pretty sure was on US 30. Yeah, US 30 shorts. which I have to go back to. Yeah, I'm gonna put a line because this is a little bit confusing. Okay, there we go. This trade was off of a 3-hour supply zone on US 30. Which I think was this one right here. Now I know though, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna start to do this on stream every single day because doing all of the trades separately today is like very time consuming. This would be better if I did it like right there when I take the trade. Okay, I'm pretty sure it was right here. Yeah. The entry looks like it was around here. Stop loss was 50 points. I will say the stop loss on US 30 I feel like is way easier to do. I love trading US 30. I think it's very calm. I like how the stop losses too like usually look big enough. Where on NASDAQ, if it's really volatile and you have, even with 100 tick stop loss, like it might look very tiny. It might be too tight. Which is also why what I started to do was I use this thing now, which is called, what is it called? It's called a price range measure. And basically what I do with it is I measure out what my stop loss is going to be. So last week what I was doing was, since last week I was doing 50 tick stop loss, what I was doing was measuring out 50 ticks right here. And then I would literally just be looking at the charts and putting this next to it so I can get an idea of when or of where my stop loss is going to be. So if you guys see arrows a lot in my trading, it's really just me measuring out to see how my stop loss might look, you know? Cuz a mistake I used to do was just like not measure the candlesticks. And like if it's a crazy day on NASDAQ and you don't measure your stop loss beforehand, you might get stopped out before you even calculate where your stop loss is going to be, right? Or if you have auto brackets, your stop loss might be somewhere you might not like it, and then it's too tight. So that's why I like to do this. Just measuring it out. Okay, I would say this was a short reversal trade. This was off of a 3-hour. You know what? I also have to add another. I have to add another column. I have to add if it was NQ or YM or US 30. So this was NQ. And this is going to be way easier to do once I do like a drop down, which you can do on spreadsheets. This first trade was also on NQ. Okay. Time of entry. I know this trade was pretty late. Yeah, this was at 10:04. Like, again, not a trade I usually take. Especially recently. These past few months, I've been taking a lot of trades the first 15 minutes. Three hour. supply. This was a loss. 0 points into profit. Stop loss was 50 points. And then a screenshot. So this is my 1 minute time frame screenshot. And then on the 5 minute, also there's just so many things wrong with this trade, like, and I didn't see that at the time. At the moment, again, this is why I'm doing it to see the losses, actually see them from a different perspective. Thank you, the Trader Shop. Yeah, that's the goal for 2026. Keep my head down and just focus on the mission. Okay, let's add this image. That's the 1 minute and then the 5 minute screenshot. Boom. Alright, that was Monday. Damn. You know, I gotta add so many columns. I need to add another one. Because I want to also track what days out of the week the trades play out the best. I could just put in the beginning though. Monday. Okay, that was Monday. Let's move on to Tuesday, which I'm going to write out here. Tuesday the 6th, which if we look on TradeZilla, it was a huge losing day for me. Yeah. So I took longs on US 30, probably a breakout trade. What the heck? The next trade I took was on NASDAQ, which I also remember this trade. No, honestly, like, not my best week. I would say this was like one of my worst weeks. Not even just because I lost. Like, the trades that I actually took should have been executed way better. Okay, let's do US 30. So it looks like I was looking at a 2-hour supply zone this Tuesday. Yeah, I see it now. What else did I have marked there? No, I'm looking at literally the wrong thing. It's this 2 hours on right here. Okay, I see the trade now. Yeah. I mean, now looking at this trade, if I zoom out, I can clearly see this. The range, the pre-market range is way down here. So this is technically it is a breakout trade because there is resistance in this area, but it's not the regular like pre-market range breakout. I would say this is kind of a continuation. Let's look at the entry though. So it looks like my entry was around this area here. Stop loss, I'm sure it was below this zone here. So 40-point stop. And then I remember targeting this 2-hour supply zone up here, which now that I look at it, the stop loss looks too tight. Usually on US 30, I do a 50-point stop. I could have still been in this trade unless no, I would have broken even. Yeah. Oh no, this is a break even. See, I'm okay, it makes sense. So this trade was up around 70 points, then it went straight down to break even. I would say I could have taken longs again. And I think it would have worked out perfectly. Like I could have taken longs after seeing this retest of the area down here and then it breaking structure to the upside. I think I could have taken longs again and it would have played out well. But I was looking at NASDAQ. So I was like, US 30 looks kind of chopped. Let me trade NASDAQ. And then that was the second trade I took. But let me screenshot this really quick on the 1 minute time frame. And then on the 5 minute. Like the longs actually played out pretty well. It just looked kind of choppy. Okay, so this was a 2-hour breakout trade longs. The time I took this was, let's zoom in, 9:38. I would say that's on schedule. 38 a.m. This was a 2-hour supply zone. This was a break even. 70 points into take profit. Or 70 points into profit. The stop loss was, I'm sure it was 50 points or less. And then I have to insert the screenshot. That's the 1 minute screenshot and then the 5 minute screenshot. Okay, boom. Next trade was, second trade took shorts on NASDAQ after it tapped a 2-hour supply zone. Since it was low volume, I expected the market to go back down into the range. which, like, I see the mistake right now. I see it. I would say this was a early entry. I mean, I understand why I took the trade, but now looking at the losing trade, you can see it clearly bounced off of the white line. So this was a matter of really just waiting um I should have waited for a better candle close, cuz even this red candle close here, it closed out right at the white line. So even though the entry was like regular, the close of the red candle here kind of shows it might bounce off of the white line. And that's exactly what it did. But let me look at this on NASDAQ. Yeah, I see the 2 hour zone right here. 30-minute. And I think that was it. Yeah. So, looking at NASDAQ, there was a 2 hour supply zone here. And I remember seeing this because I almost took longs. I almost took longs around this area here. After this 1 minute candle closed above this 30% line, what I wanted to see was this green candle close out strong, which did happen, and then a small pullback, and then immediately I wanted it to see it break the highs. That didn't happen though, right? As you can see, like, it started to chop up around this area, and that's also why I started to look at US 30. That's also probably why I did trade it, because I saw the 1 minute price action here. Didn't like it. Um but this, I remember seeing it too, like this could have been the trade, because this 1 minute candle here closed out right above the 50% line, and then what happens is literally what I always look for. It closes above the 50% line, it comes back to retest this area, and then immediately it breaks the highs. That's where my long entry should have been, and that's where my long entry usually is. Like, this is, I would say this is A plus right here. And even with this trade, a tight stop loss could have made sense, or 100 ticks. Let's just say it was a 100 tick stop loss. My 1 to 2 would have played out. If I had a tighter stop loss, 1 to 4 would have played out easily. But the trade that I took was shorts over here, because I saw once it tapped this huge supply zone, which is a 2 hour supply zone, kind of a 4 hour zone. No, it's a 2 hour zone. Yeah. Once it tapped this area, it had a red candle, and I was like, oh, it's breaking structure to the downside. So I took the short. But there's so many reasons to why that short was wrong, right? Number one, this is the opening range breakout right here. If you mark out the first 15-minute candle, if you just look at the 15-minute candle, this 15-minute candle closed out above 660, that 50% line. And then you see it retest the area and then break the highs. Honestly, like, I should have known right there. Why would I short that, you know? The reason I shorted it was just because the opening range was small. It was very low volume. And you can see the opening range was choppy as well. So I was thinking, oh, since it was choppy in the beginning, let me take shorts. Because usually when it's choppy and low volume, usually like it don't really break out. But in this case, it did, and I think the longs definitely made more sense. But I think taking this first break even here, I think that messed with my head. Not gonna lie. But again, that's why I'm journaling, just to get an understanding why I took certain trades and to understand the mistakes I did. Let me screenshot this really quick. So this would be a 1 minute time frame screenshot. Go to the 5 minute, and then here it is. And then this trade would be a shorts supply and demand trade. And guys, trust me, I know this spreadsheet looks rough, but it'll look better. I just have to touch it up. I'm not gonna lie. So this trade was a 2 hour supply zone. Time of entry. Let's zoom in. 9:49 a.m. Which is pretty early on. I would say that's on schedule. Zero. Stop loss was the stop loss looks really wide. Yeah, 115 ticks. Which I would say that's too wide. And it's too wide because I was in with one full contract. So I was risking around $500 on that trade. Which is why that was my last trade. So I was like, damn, like I hit daily loss limit on that one trade. And I over risked on that trade. I mean, technically, like, I didn't, but I did. I definitely did. Like, risk was managed for the day, but for the trades, that was over risking. Like, I could have went into 5 micros and taken the trade, and I would have lost way less with the same stop loss. Okay, next. Next was Wednesday, which was a winning day. Let's see. It looks like I took a loss, then I took a win. Wednesday the 7th. Okay. Wednesday the 7th, I took 2 trades on NQ. And this was a screenshot. Got stopped out on the first trade because there was a retest happening. After the retest happened, then I saw a long breaking structure and getting back above the 50% line. Okay, let's go to the day. And then I'm going to erase these zones since they got ran through. Okay, this looks like a 3 hour. Minute. And then this is the 30-minute supply zone that I took the trade off from. Zoom in. And I mean, even zooming out on this 5-minute time frame, you can see the pre-market range right here, the breakout to the upside, which the closest entry I could have gotten was right here at this 30-minute supply zone. This was the first trade here. Stop loss was, looks like it was 60 ticks. Around 63 ticks. Second trade was slightly above the zone right here. Stop loss was 68 ticks. This trade was good. The second trade, I would say the mistake on the first trade was not waiting for a retest. Yeah. Because right here, if I waited for this retest, the retest happened around this area here, immediately started breaking structure to the upside again, which is why I took the long again, which there's nothing wrong with, but this first loss could have been avoided if I just waited for retest. The reason, though, I didn't wait for retest was because this crazy candle came oh my gosh, I'm starting. This crazy candle came up closing out strong, and I expected that volume to continue. So I was like, sometimes if it's crazy volatile, like you don't really get the retest. So I'm gonna just take the trade. And that's what I did. Damn, this is gonna be like kind of hard to chart. Or kind of hard to journal. So this was a 30-minute breakout. First trade was 934. This was a 30-minute. This was, the first trade was a loss. 0. Stop loss was 63 ticks, which is why I lost around 350. And that's a screenshot on the 1-minute time frame. And then for the 5-minute, okay, there we go. And then I'm just gonna copy and paste this since it was the same trade twice. Copy. Paste. Oh my god. Like, why? Why does it do that? I'm gonna have to. Let me see this. Copy. Hey, oh my god. Fuck it. I'm not gonna copy and paste it. Okay, this second trade was. I'm gonna say 938. $30-minute. This was a win. Let's see how long this would have played out for. This win. Okay, I would say it played out for 200 ticks. Stop loss was 64 ticks. Copy, paste. Okay, nice. Paste. And then I just put in the same picture. And that was Wednesday. Okay, look at Thursday. Thursday, another losing day. A lot of up and down for this week, which another reason I think that is because the risk wasn't managed properly like it should have. And I think I did that because I was in with one full contract, not micros like I usually do for a 50K account. There's just so many like things. I don't want to say I'm disappointed in myself, but like, Lonnie, like, what were we actually thinking? Oh, jeez. Why is it, like, what? Why does it copy and paste like that? Copy text. There we go. Okay, anyways. Okay, let's just read this. Okay, first trade took longs on US 30 after a 1-minute candle close above a 15-minute supply zone. I remember this day. I remember because I took longs on US 30, but they actually played out better on NASDAQ. And there was a way for me to avoid that mistake as well. Okay. 4 hour. So I'm going to chart out US 30. Wait. Oh no, I'm looking at the wrong date. Yeah, it was right here. Okay, there's this 90-minute supply zone up here. $30-minute supply zone. I'm trying to see if I could have gotten a way better entry. This looks like a 15-minute supply zone here. But is that the trade I took? No, I don't think so. Maybe. Let's see. Let's see this on the 1 minute. $49,136. Where is that 15-minute supply zone? I can't even find it. Yeah, it says it's around 130. Maybe it is this one, but am I in the right? I'm in the right day. Okay. Hmm. It has to be this one. Yeah, it is this one. Okay. Sorry, I was like way confused. So I took longs right up here, and I can already see why I took longs. So I took longs because there was this 1 minute candle close above this 15-minute supply zone. Hold up, hold up, hold up. I remember. I remember. Let me drink this coffee. Like, I'm mad slow. This is why I don't back test, bro. I swear I'm like really slow when it comes to like charting out, looking back at stuff. So this area here, I remember this because I was like, damn, shoulda, coulda, woulda. There was some sort of area that it bounced off from. I think it was this 4 hour supplies on here. Yeah. Yeah, it was. So, yeah, on Thursday, I was looking at this 4 hour supplies on here. And I was like, oh, US 30 is about to tap into it. But I was trying to see if we broke through it. And then market opened up at 9:30, and then it broke structure to the upside. So right here, it broke this wick here. This could have been the perfect long entry, like actually, because it tapped into this 4 hour supplies on here, tapped the 50% line, immediately rejects it. Even how the 5 minute candle closes, like that's a huge hint for the longs. But the only way I could have actually entered into this long was only if I placed an order, which I think that's one of my goals this year is to start placing orders at the open for US 30 because trades like this happen all of the time. It happened on Monday, it happened on Thursday this day, and it's going to happen again throughout the year. That's just how US 30 opens up a lot, a lot. Too much. But yeah. And then 50-point stop, take profit, could have been a 1 to 2 or higher. I mean, if I saw the opening this strong, I would have held it, you know? But of course, I didn't take that trade. But it was a really good trade. Okay, this was a breakout long. And let me fix these. Okay, there we go. That should look better. Backtest Saturdays. I could, but maybe I should. It's just backtesting for me is like it's I don't want to say it's not good, but I'm just not good at backtesting. I don't know why. Like I don't take it as serious as I should. And it's also just not the same. Like I would just say backtesting's for people who are learning their strategy. I already learned my strategy. The way I backtest is by reviewing the trades. The only way I'll backtest is like if I'm in a losing streak and I like really need like some sort of help, then I'll actually backtest. And I'll backtest for hours. Like I'll get obsessed over it, which is it's not that healthy. That's the only way I backtest. Okay, this trade was taking at 9:33, and this was a 15-minute breakout. Okay. Jeez. Breakout. Like I already forgot the time. Okay, 9:33. Damn, that's actually very early. 15-minute breakout. Oh. This was a loss. 0 points into profit, 50 points stop. And then let's do the screenshots. And then screenshot on the 5-minute. Another way I could have avoided this loss was waiting for a 5-minute candle to close above, which I usually try to do, but since I trade the first 15 minutes, like it's usually very volatile, which is why recently I've been waiting or I've been trading a lot on the 1 minute time frame. Okay. Also, I want to back test Thursday cuz I remember the longs played out perfectly on Nasdaq. Let's see. Or did they? Let's see if they did. Okay. Not seeing much. Okay, this looks like a 1 hour demand zone. Boom. I'm not seeing too many zones, which is probably why I did trade US 30. Okay, 30-minute right here. Never mind. The longs didn't play out this day. The shorts did. I remember because of that 30-minute zone there. Which I didn't like this 30-minute zone because it's not like a crazy zone. It's not like the zone had a smooth continuation up. It was more of just a basing candle and then a big move. Which is why I was picky with the zone. But once the market did open up, once it did open up, immediately broke past that 50% line. Boom, 930 candle closes below this 50% line. Honestly, right, I would have taken a short here. And then what I'm going to start to implement is like the 100 tick stop loss in case it does pull back to retest this 50% area, then comes back down, which I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Yeah, retest to the tick. It retests that area, immediately break structure lower. And then it went straight to TP, which could have been either a 122 or this 1 hour demand zone, which it did tap into, and then it started to chop up. But like, this was a really good trade that I missed out on as well. Oh, another mistake this day. just I'm just saying my mistakes. Another mistake this day was I chose to trade a 15-minute zone over a 30-minute zone, which usually, if I'm deciding which zone I'm going to take a trade off from, usually I decide I'm going to choose the bigger time frame zone because it tends to be more accurate. And it proved my point right here. You know, I decided to trade the smaller time frame one, which wasn't the best one. And I learned because I took a loss from it. And then the 30-minute zone, which was bigger than the 15-minute zone, a bigger time frame, it played out in the cleanest way possible. You know, even with the retest, it's very clean, and then it moves lower. But yeah, then what was it for this trade or for this day? I took another trade on US 30 on the 1 minute time frame. So I took the longs and then I got stopped out. After this 1 minute candle closed out below this 50% line, I was like, okay, you know, that's most likely a 5 minute wick and we're going to come back lower, which could have happened. And I'll put the trade right here. This was the oh my gosh, I'm sorry. What am I saying? This was the second loss right here, which like again, like just not even A+ because we already chopped on this zone here. So why trust the zone again? You know? I would honestly another mistake. Like boom, I'm wording out mistakes here. Another mistake was I took the trade back to back. Like I usually don't do that, you know. There was a lot of things that I usually don't do last week. And I don't think it's just cuz I was live training on YouTube. Not at all. I think it was because of my sizing. I was trading one full contract on 50K accounts, which again, like I usually don't do. Usually I do 5 micros, and I've had very good success with doing that. So why change it, you know? Anyways, another reason why the shorts were bullshit over here is because price had already reacted off of this 4 hour zone. Boom, 4 hour zone right here. So if price reacts from a bigger time frame zone, usually it'll continue into that way. So why fight the trend that it's already in? Why fight the direction that it already chose? You know, it rarely does that. So that's also another reason why this trade was not good. The dogs are howling. I don't know if you guys can hear that. You probably can. They probably just saw a squirrel or something. I'm gonna try to copy and paste this. Copy. Paste. Oh, that worked out. Okay, perfect. So this was a 15-minute zone reversal. Time I took the trade 9:35. So see, like, I'm already 2 trades into the day, only 5 minutes into the day. So that's also another mistake. I took the trade, both of the trades, just way too soon, way too close to each other. Literally 2 minutes, only 2 minutes after that first trade. And the stop loss, I'm pretty sure, was only 30 points. So I didn't risk too much on this trade. But still, I shouldn't have taken it. Okay, here's the 1 minute time frame screenshot. And then the 5-minute screenshot. Let me take that again. Okay. There's the 1 minute and then the 5-minute really quick. Okay. And then the third trade this day was, I would say it was a really good trade. It played out really well. But I broke even on the trade. And I'm pretty sure I took this trade with 5 micros, which is also why I had a wider stop loss. Let me just go to it so you understand. Yeah, it was right here. This was a trade here. It looks like the entry was a bit very late. Like, what? The entry should have been down here. Right, as soon as I saw the market tap into this 1 hour demand zone, immediately we start to create wicks off of it, right? We start to reject it, and then we break structure to the upside. This is where my entry shoulda, coulda been, right? But since I was hesitant because I had already taken 2 trades, 2 losses back to back, I was hesitant. So my entry was actually, yeah, it was just way too far. It was way up here. And as you can see, like, the trade is huge. It's 119 ticks, which is a usual take profit kind of. If it was down here, boom, you could have had 200 ticks. But since I was hesitant, I missed out on a huge chunk right down here. What else with this trade? Another thing with this trade was, since I took those first 2 losses, I was like, you know what? Let me size down to micros. So I slapped on 5 micros, which is half of my usual position that I was in that day. And then since I was in with 5 micros, I didn't take profit up here, even though I could have, because there was a zone right there. So because I was in a lower amount of contracts, I wasn't up that much. I think I was only up around $200. And that's why I didn't take profit. I just put my stop loss at break even, and then I hoped they would go up higher. And that's also why my stop loss was 100 ticks. So since my stop loss was 100 ticks, I hit break even around 106. So around this area here, I hit break even, and I was just hoping it would completely reverse up, even though, even th- even though, right, the time is 9:46. So the 15-minute candle had already closed, and for me, usually like the volume dies down after the first 15 minutes, and that's exactly what happened this day. You can see after the first 15 minutes on the 1 minute time frame, it looks very choppy. Even for the rest of the day, like if you look at the 15-minute time frame, it's very choppy from there. So the timing of this trade it wasn't that good. The sizing on this trade wasn't that good, and the entry wasn't that good either. But I'm still gonna journal it. So I'm gonna screenshot it on the 1 minute. And this was a reversal trade for the longs. So this was a 1 hour demand reversal. What's the time on this trade? So I took this trade at 9:46. The zone was a 1 hour zone. This was a break even. But if my sizing was better, I know I would have taken profit because I would have been up over $500. So I know I would have taken profit. But again, my sizing was lower. So it's like, shoulda, coulda, woulda. In TradingView, you can copy a link of the screenshot. Yeah, I tried copy and pasting, but for some reason, I can't copy and paste photos on Google Sheets. I thought we could, I remember copy and pasting photos onto this. I just don't know why it's not working now. But points into profit or ticks into profit, this ran up around, I would say 120 ticks. Stop loss 100 ticks. And then the screenshot. That's the 1 minute. And then for the 5 minute, it's gonna look very, very tiny. Yeah. You could barely see it. But I'll screenshot it. Okay, there we go. And I'm pretty sure that was it for the day. Yeah. This was a really good trade. I'm not gonna lie. There's just a couple of mistakes that I did. That if I didn't do, it would have been a huge winning trade. I mean, if I changed the sizing, if I kept the sizing the same, and I had a better entry with the same sizing, I would have gotten 200 ticks. So I would have covered the two losses, plus I would have made like 500 on top just off of this move here. Right? Shoulda, coulda, woulda, but all right. What's next? So that was Thursday. Friday. Let's see. Friday. On Discord. Oh, I actually. No shit. I actually didn't journal on Friday. So we're going to do it now. No wonder. Okay, so let's go to Friday. And this is actually going to be me journaling for Friday. I'm pretty sure I only traded NQ. Okay, not really much zones. Okay, this 1 hour zone here. 1 hour supply zone. I remember the trade. I remember this trade was heartbreaking. This trade was honestly really tough. Yeah. I'm trying to find the zone that I took the trade off from. Um I know it was longs. I'm just trying to find the zone. Huh. This why didn't I didn't journal on Friday because I was pissed. So I just left and I didn't journal. I have a screenshot of the trade, so I'm trying to see. Yeah, I took longs right here. But I'm trying to find the zone that I took it off. It had to be this 5 minute. This is the only zone I see. No, it's not. I mean, this is the only zone I see this 90 minute. It has to be this 90 minute here. Yeah, it is. Okay. So, this trade honestly, like, just pissed me off. And literally, my mistake for this trade was a mistake that I was doing the whole week, which was the sizing. Because I was in one contract for most of my trades last week or this week, it caused me to have really tight stop losses. Yeah, like this is a 50 tick stop loss, way too tight, and I knew that, so I was like, let me let the trade breathe. My entry was around here. No, it was right here, on the break of structure of this 1 minute candle right there. And I was like, you know what, this 50 tick stop loss is too tight, so I'm gonna let it breathe. So I risked around $500. No, it was like around $400 on this trade. So first of all, I'm over risking because the sizing again is off. It's not usually what I trade. And then the stop loss was too tight, which I did really good widening up the stop loss. But if I was in with 5 micros, I know for a fact I would have had 100 tick stop loss. And I wouldn't have gotten stopped out right here like I did. I have the screenshot right here. Let's just look at the screenshot. Like, Look at the screenshot. This was the trade right here. I took the longs, and again, I was like, the stop loss too tight. Let it breathe. So my stop loss was around 73 ticks. Got stopped out to the tick, and then it completely reversed from there. I could have avoided this if my sizing was 5 micros. That would have allowed me to have the wider stop loss that I usually have, and the TP perfect to the tick. This 1 hour zone up here, I think, yeah, this 1 hour supply zone. The risk reward would have been perfect, even with that wider stop loss. And I mean, this was the trade right here. But I remember taking another trade, and I think it was on US 30. Anyways, let's journal this really quick. So this is the 1 minute time frame screenshot, and this is longs off of a demand zone, a 90-minute zone. Hold up. Okay. Hold on, give me a second. 90-minute demand zone. The trade was, it was on time, right? It was right at 9:33. This was a 90-minute. This trade was a loss. What is it? 72 ticks around there. I'm gonna say 73 ticks. Add the screenshot. I'm really glad I did this today. Just because I can honestly spot out the mistakes that I did from a different perspective, you know? I mean, if I did this yesterday right off of trading, I could have had it. First of all, I was pissed off yesterday because of this trade. So, definitely a good idea to do these like trader recaps after I don't have to trade, after I'm already done trading for the week, so I could have a better perspective of the trades, like a non biased perspective. Something like that. I took another trade. I'm pretty sure it was on US 30. So I'm going to look at that. Damn. Wow. Look at US 30. I mean, US 30 on Friday was very choppy. It barely moved. The 3 hour zone. Why are you crying? Come here. I know you want to go outside. Okay. I shouldn't have said outside. Come here. All right, I gotta hurry up because the dogs want to go out. I'm trying to see the trade that I took. I'm sure it was on US 30. Just don't know which one. Let me see. TradeZella. So it was shorts on US 30 at 950. Oh, I think I spotted the trade right here. Oops. Yes, I see the trade here. So this was the US 30 trade that I took. It was short. Let's see if it says it here. Great. It was shorts literally right at this bottom here. Yeah, I remember this. This was a rush trade as well. And I think I took it because I got messed up over here. I was pissed off. I would say this was an emotional trade. Like this is not a plus. So I took shorts because there was a 1 minute candle close below this 90-minute demand zone, which the market kept bouncing off from earlier into the open. So again, usually I try to wait for some sort of retest. Um, in this trade, I didn't wait for a retest. I just straight up got in, and then immediately got stopped out, which I could have avoided if I just waited for a retest. So what I should have waited for was for this 1 minute candle to close out below the zone, which it did. But then I should have waited for some sort of retest of this area and then a continuation lower. But no, what I did was I just saw the 1 minute candle closing out strong, and I immediately took a sell, which I think I took a sell very fast again because I was still very emotional because of this trade over here. Um, but yeah, let me journal this as well. And I wish I didn't have to journal this because it's not really, an A plus setup. It's more of just an emotional trade. Oh, this also looks like it was my first short breakout out of the year, and it was a loss. This was a 90. Whoops. Okay, there we go. 90-minute breakout. Time of entry 9:50 a.m., which I would say is kind of late, kind of a late trade, not gonna lie. This was a loss. 0 points into profit, 50 points, stop loss, a screenshot. This is the 1 minute time frame screenshot. Insert image. And then for the 5 minute. And this is also a great example of how most of the losses that I take are really good entries for the opposite direction. And I think the reason is because I try to only take trades off of actual areas of interest, you know, actual supply and demand zones. Okay, and that was it. So what I have to do now is just I have to fix this spreadsheet, try to make it look better, and also somehow I'm going to try to make it track data, like, what type of winning trades did I take, how many winning trades did I take off of a long breakout that won, or which time frame was like the most profitable. That's the goal of this spreadsheet, is to track those metrics or those analytics. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. That's the point of the spreadsheet. But I do have to touch it up and fix it. But that was it for me today. This took way longer than expected, but it was my first time doing this with the spreadsheet. So I think what I'm gonna do now is just, instead of doing it on Saturdays, I'm gonna try to do it each and every day after I finish the trade. That's the goal. But yeah, that's it for me. Tomorrow I'm gonna do a psychology call. I'm gonna try. if I do the call, it's going to be around 10 a.m. Eastern. So I'll see you guys tomorrow for a psychology call.